Before we get to our next item, we have two members of the public who would like to, no, that's not the case?
Oh, it's not this one? Okay, I wasn't
It's
sure.
not this one? Oh, okay, very good. Okay, our next item is our update on the activities of the Foundation for California Community
Okay, CCC, CSA.
Colleges.
What do you say?
Item 3.2. Let everybody sit down. As I reported earlier, I certainly have spent time with the foundation, as has the chancellor and staff and our board members. The first thing I'd like to say is thank goodness for Jan Dehesh, who is the chair of the foundation board, and thank goodness she lives in San Diego.
No, great.
As we were able to meet up on a couple critical times. It has been a great pleasure to get to know Jan and work with her over the past 60 days or so. And we really focused on how can our Board of Governors and the Foundation Board work a little more closely together. How can we create better communication between both of the boards and also create some greater transparency on some of the issues and some of the funding that we enjoy together. And in our discussions, Jan and I have agreed, first of all, that we would start attending each other's meetings on a semi-regular basis when we could, just so that we both could get a better idea of how each other's board work. We also agreed that we, since our Board of Governors changes pretty much on a yearly basis for all kinds of reasons, that it would be good to institute a policy, for lack of a better term, where the foundation comes once a year or once every 18 months and gives us an orientation for new board members. What is the foundation's mission? What is their structure? What are their priorities? Those kinds of things, so that new board members, and in some of our case, some older board members, have a really good idea. And I thank Jan for agreeing to do that. So I also had the pleasure of attending the foundation board meeting a few days ago, and saw our new interim director, Keitha Mills, in action. It was a great pleasure to see her do that, and Carrie Wood, the director of development. I'm going to let them take it from here. I do want to say is I am duly impressed with the foundation board, the foundation staff. I think they have taken some great strides over the past little bit. I, quite frankly, am extremely optimistic on opportunities going forward. I also say from our board level, I think we have a great opportunity to pursue, along with the foundation, some programmatic ideas and funding ideas that maybe this board has, knowing that our resources are so limited on the state level. But I think we can work over the next bit of time to establish a good relationship and maybe pursue funding together for some programmatic and policy priorities that we may both have in common. With that, the chair of the board, Jan Dehesh.
Thank you, President Himmelstein, and nice to see you again, Chancellor Scott. I have to say hello. I'm glad I finally get to meet all of you today. I thank you for giving us our liaison board members, Henry Ramos and Gary Reed. They're two fabulous people, although I noticed they managed to skip today. I'll have to find out what's going on. Actually, I think they're both on vacation. And thank you, Scott, for attending our board meeting last week. It was very, very nice of you to be there, and I think we had some great discussions. Chancellor Scott, thank you for sending Eric Skinner to our board meeting as well. We found some additional things we can be working and collaborating on just in the discussion that went on during the day. As you know, we sent out a press release on September 1st announcing Dr. Paul Lanning's resignation, that he has decided to go on to explore some additional job opportunities, but he does remain a supporter of the work of the foundation and of the California community colleges. And we appreciate everything he's done over the years as well as his leadership. With that said, the board announced that Keitha Mills, sitting next to me, our CFO and Vice President of Finance, is going to be our interim CEO. And we are actually very excited about Keitha's strengths. She brings 15 years of corporate and nonprofit leadership, as well as financial and operational expertise. She has given her expertise overseeing an annual operating budget of over $40 million of the foundation in the last few years, and we know she is a strong, strong candidate for the CEO going forward. With that said, and I will let Keitha talk in a few minutes, we do want to make sure that the Board of Governors understands who the foundation is going forward and what our mission is, our programs, how we can work together. One of the things that we will do at your next board meeting is give you a little bit of a history lesson on what the foundation, why it started, when it started, and what we've done and some of the programs we've done together in the last few years. I actually have been on the board for 11 plus years, so a long time. So I can fill you in on some of the things as well if you've got questions. But we also want to make sure that we have increased collaboration between the two, and I myself have agreed with Scott that we will attend each other's board meetings. Although, did you have to make it so far away from San Diego?
We're gonna
But this
fix
is a
that.
beautiful college. I'm so impressed. It's amazing. With that said, let me introduce our interim CEO, Keitha Mills.
Thank you, Jan. I'm really very excited to be part of the leadership of the foundation as we kind of move forward in the next phase of our kind of corporate existence. We're really at a very pivotal time. We're coming off of tremendous momentum from the end of the 3-year Osher fundraising campaign. And we're going to hear Carrie talk a little bit about the overall results and some lessons learned from that campaign a little bit later. But it's really kind of, a great time for our organization to sort of, I'm going to call it get back to basics, kind of stop, reflect on our successes, reflect on our challenges, and really kind of look forward to, what do we do really well and how do we do that even better going forward. So I'm very excited about this opportunity. What we're going to talk to you guys about today, as Jan mentioned, we do want to come back at a future board meeting and maybe give you a bit more history about the foundation, but I'm hoping we can kind of start that a little bit today. What we're going to talk about today is kind of the strategic plan, our strategic vision going forward. I've got financial results for the full fiscal year. We just ended our fiscal year June 30th, so we'll talk about that. I'll then turn it over to Carrie and have her talk about the financial results for the Osher campaign, and then again talk a little bit about strategy specifically related to fundraising and some joint projects that we're working together on with the Board of Governors, including a grant that we're working on with JP Morgan to fund some veterans programs. So Carrie will talk a little bit about that. So you guys should have received a little blue folder with some information, and I'm going to just quickly kind of walk you through what's in your folder. And I'm going to first apologize. This first document that's entitled the Midterm Report for the Strategic Plan, when you flip to the second page, it's upside down. So I apologize for that. But hopefully you can just kind of flip it over and still easily read it. So what I'd like to start with is a discussion about the Foundation's strategic plan and our processes related to strategic planning and annual planning. We're currently operating under a strategic plan that runs, that began in fiscal year 2010 and is slated to run through fiscal year 2013. So we're right at the midpoint of that four-year strategic plan. So what we've been working on over the last several months over the summer is working on kind of a midpoint check-in. So our strategic plan includes 5 strategic goals, and then under those goals, there are a number of kind of action items that we had identified about what we want to do over this 4-year period. So over the last several months, as a team that included pretty much all of our foundation managers and directors, we've gone through the strategic goals and action items and kind of identified how are we doing. What have been our accomplishments against these strategic goals and actions over the past 2 years? What have we not yet accomplished? What adjustments do we need to make based on kind of where we thought we were going 2 years ago versus kind of where we are today? And what does our annual plan look like for 2012? And then finally, does this strategic plan still meet our needs? Are these still the 5 goals that we should be seeking, and is this the right direction for our organization? So that's kind of the process that we've been going through. The result of that process, I'm going to start with, we did come to the conclusion that we believe the strategic goals do still address kind of the forward direction of the organization, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the result of these activities was this monster document here. I'm going to do a little show and tell. It's a 60-page document that goes through all the actions, all the goals, and identifies both accomplishments over the last 2 years and plans for 2012. And this is really, I won't bore you with this. It's really quite riveting. But this is really kind of an internal document for our managers to use. So this is kind of our Bible as we move forward as to kind of where have we been and where are we going. What we've tried to do is distill this into something that is kind of presentable and absorbable for you guys. And as we kind of thought through, how do we do that? We went through a couple of iterations of, well, do we try to peel out the important things out of here and tell you about our important accomplishments? And then we decided, well, it was all really very important. And so what we've done in this document in your packet is kind of identify some opportunities and challenges that arose as we went through this process, and the opportunities and challenges that helped informed kind of where we're going in 2012 and beyond. So I'm going to start by just kind of briefly going over our 5 strategic goals so you kind of get a broad understanding of the components of our strategic plan. First of all, goal number 1 is to sustain and grow programs and services. We offer a number of programs and services that benefit the community colleges that we want to maintain. So first and foremost, we want to sustain what we have and grow and build upon what we do well. Strategic goal number 2 is to diversify revenue streams. In order to ensure our long-term viability, we have to have diverse revenue streams coming into our organization so that we're not solely dependent on any one or any 2 funding sources. We need state funding, we need federal funding, we need private funding, we need individual funding. And so that diversity of our revenue streams is really, really important to our long-term viability. Strategic goal number 3 is to enhance collaboration. And when we talk about collaboration not only within our organization, among the variety of programs and services that we offer, but we also talk about collaboration with the Board of Governors, collaboration with the Chancellor's Office, collaboration with the campuses, collaboration with the campus foundations. So there are a number of parties and key constituents that we focus on when we talk about the concept of collaboration. Strategic goal number 4 relates to increasing awareness. And again, when we talk about awareness, it wears a number of different hats. When we talk about increasing awareness, not only do we think about it from the perspective of letting more people know about the great work that we do at the foundation, the number of programs and services that we offer that benefit the campuses. But it's also increasing the awareness of our system as a whole and increasing the awareness of the importance of fundraising within the community colleges. It's very important, and it's something that, coming off of the momentum of the Osher campaign, we don't want to lose that momentum. We got a lot of great PR. We have a lot of new contacts as a result of those efforts, and we want to make sure that we're helping to lead the charge in continuing that important message. And then finally, strategic goal number 5 is the importance of sustaining and growing our own infrastructure support. Without those key infrastructure items, HR, accounting, finance, people who make the payroll, we can't run the important programs and services that we do. So it's really important that we stay focused on kind of that right-sized infrastructure and that we don't outgrow those very important kind of internal needs. So as we reviewed kind of those 5 strategic goals and all the myriad of action items that came underneath, we identified kind of 8 key areas where we thought were really great, either strengths, opportunities, or maybe challenges and threats. So it's almost kind of like a SWOT analysis that we went through. And I'm going to just kind of briefly talk about those items in hopes that that'll kind of help you get kind of a vision for where we're going forward. So one of the things that resonated throughout this process is that we do 2 things really well. One is grant management. Because we have a direct connection to the Board of Governors and the Chancellor's office, and we have a statewide presence that puts us in a unique spot to attract large funding streams, large multi-million-dollar, multi-year funding streams that we can attract within the foundation and then disperse those funds out to the campuses. We've got the infrastructure to manage the grants. We've got the flexibility to hire and fire and all the things that go along with running programs and services. And we have a proven track record of doing that really well, and we want to continue to do that. The other thing that we do really well is this concept of fee-for-service businesses. And I think College Buys is probably our star program as it relates to fee-for-service. And some of you have been on the board for a while, may have heard about College Buys. But the concept of fee-for-service, it's a little bit different than a fixed grant or contract where you get money for a particular program and that money goes for a particular period of time and you're working under these particular rules. Whereas the fee-for-service model is that we're seeking what types of services do the campuses need where we can bring together corporate partners, suppliers, vendors, help make those connections, help bring those vendors together at the statewide level, negotiate bulk purchase agreements, discounted prices, that sort of thing. So that's where we can come in and negotiate at the statewide level and push those services out to the campuses and save the campuses millions of dollars every year. So when we talk about diversifying revenue streams, really kind of those are the 2 highest level buckets that we're talking about, and both are equally important both to us and to the campuses. Another item that came out of this process is the great work that we've done around expanding our capacity around fundraising. Our foundation has historically been an operating foundation. We've run programs and services, and we've gone out there and we've gotten very distinct funding sources to run very distinct programs, and we've done that really well. Over the last 3 years, we've made a great investment in a more traditional kind of fundraising team who, Carrie and her team, who are out there trying to broaden that pot of prospects and looking at corporate funders, looking at private foundation funders, looking at who are the other kind of funders out there who might want to give to our system. And that capacity is so important, again, in sort of spreading that message of the importance of philanthropy within our community colleges. It's something that, again, we've had great momentum over the last 3 years and something that we want to kind of continue to focus on going forward. The alignment with the system is huge to us. When we are aligned with the Board of Governors, when we are aligned with the Chancellor's office, when we're aligned with campuses, when we're aligned with the campus foundations, that's when we are the most successful, and that's where we need to be focused going forward. It's just really, it's key to our mission, and that's what funders want to fund. Funders do not want to fund some big brother statewide entity. They want to fund the campuses, they want to fund the students, and that's where we need to be aligned. We need to be really strategic going forward in our investment in statewide initiatives. We've made a number of investments in statewide initiatives over the past 3 to 4 years. Some unfunded, some funded. The Osher campaign is one example of that. We've also embarked on some alumni outreach type activity. And we're strategically poised to take on these statewide initiatives. But it's going to be really, really important that as we evaluate which initiatives we invest in going forward, that, again, we make sure, number one, we're aligned. We're aligned with the Board of Governors. We're aligned with the campuses. We're aligned with the Chancellor's Office. It's also very important that we look at our ultimate return on investment, and we really look at what the risks are and what the rewards are, and that we make really strategically smart, financially prudent investments in those types of activities going forward. Communications and branding is going to remain key. And again, communications and branding is not only about the foundation and letting people know who we are and what we do, but also, again, getting the word out about, again, the importance of fundraising throughout the community colleges. Internal operations, again, are key. We have to have the appropriate infrastructure in place to run the programs and services that we run, and we can't lose sight of those back office type activities, accounting, HR, IT, that sort of thing. We need our business people running their business. We need our technical people providing those technical services, and we need to make sure that the infrastructure is in place to support those activities. Cross-collaboration, we talked about cross-collaboration as one of our high-level strategic goals, and it's something that remains uber important to us as we move forward. And we talked about the various aspects of collaboration. And then finally, flexibility. I think flexibility is something that the foundation, it's really a key strength of the foundation. And we're really in this unique spot where we are a private 501c3, which provides us with much more flexibility than a state agency. We're able to attract state funding. We're able to attract federal funding. We're able to attract private funding. And we're much more nimble and able to sort of adjust and make changes as we go, which makes us kind of a prime candidate to be kind of that recipient of the funding and the disperser of the funds out to the colleges. So with that, that's kind of the 30,000-foot summary of kind of where we think we're going headed forward, and I'm happy to answer any questions. As I mentioned earlier, Carrie is going to talk a little bit more specifically about fundraising here in a bit, but at the 30,000 level, I'm happy to.
Carrie, why don't you go ahead, and then we'll save our questions to the end.
Good morning. I realize that we are between you and your lunch, so we're going to keep this succinct and to the point. I do want to spend just a minute, though, wrapping up some comments and a few statistics about the Osher campaign, and make sure that everyone has the latest figures. At the last Board of Governors meeting, we shared that about $68 million was raised, 67.7 to be exact. We have distributed $2.7 million in scholarships and plan to distribute $2.1 million this academic year. We anticipate that every year, 3,400 students will receive these $1,000 scholarships. 95 of the colleges participated at some level. 33 colleges met or exceeded initial goals that were set for them at the beginning of the campaign. We don't consider this campaign complete. The goal was $100 million. There's no matching component, as you know now, post June 30th. However, as we're working with corporations, with individuals and others, this will be part of a conversation. It will be part of a menu of opportunities that are available for those that are interested in supporting student scholarships statewide. So know that while it may not be able to be a top priority, it is not forgotten, and we will continue to try to reach the goal. It may take a number of years, but any ideas you have, any other connections we should make, please let us know. And then, of course, we will continue the ongoing management of the fund. We will continue to distribute scholarships, and then we will continue to receive reports from the colleges that are very critical in terms of letting us know how many students are receiving these scholarships, what kinds of students are receiving these scholarships, and other critical information that we will share with the Osher Foundation on an ongoing basis. It's really an act of stewardship, but also a requirement of the agreement that we have with the Osher Foundation. Any questions about Osher before I move on to an overall fundraising plan for the foundation?
Yes. Just curious, you said that this past year you gave out 2.7 million in scholarships, but this year it'll be 2.1?
Right.
Why does it go down if we brought in more
Right.
money?
Right, because it takes a year for the scholarship distributions to be realized. So it's been kind of a catch-up. So in the very first year was 25 million. The second year we raised an additional, I believe, 10 million, and then now we're up to this higher level. So there's a lot of momentum. In fact, we'll see even more next year because of the fundraising results of this past year.
I guess I didn't quite
In
follow.
addition, so let me reword it.
The amount of the scholarship dollars has gone down $600,000.
Dispersed.
Dispersed,
Right,
I'm sorry.
dispersed.
Yes.
So it has to do with a couple of different things. One is the investments went down. You might be able to answer a little bit more.
Well, that's
We had
fair.
investment
Yes.
losses at the end of the
Yes.
year.
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have.
But it
Got
will,
it.
that's okay. So
Got it.
it will continue to rise as hopefully the investment amounts rise. And because there was a lot of additional fundraising done last year that isn't counted yet for this academic year.
Okay, so our investments performed better last year.
Yes.
Got it.
I had just a question. Is the
Member Baum.
66 or 67 million cash in hand, or are you counting pledges, and do pledges count? Or
Cash in hand.
And are there any pledges in the pipeline that it all had to be in?
It all had to be in.
Then I'll just pat my district on the back. The Pasadena Area Community College District was the highest contributor to the Osher Fund.
Congratulations.
No doubt to the leadership of its.
It was. I faulted the chancellors. It was the bully pulpit. There you go. It was kind of meeting after meeting after meeting to say, how are we going to do that?
Member Davis Lyman, then Member McDougal.
Could you share with us what was learned from the schools, what you learned about the schools that did not participate and contribute?
Well,
Because
what
I
we
think that's as critical as the ones that.
Yes. You know, what we learned is that there was not necessarily one answer for all colleges or one reason for all the colleges. Some of them simply had other campaigns they were working on with limited staff, and they weren't able to give this attention. Others had no foundation staff at all. For others, there were some unknowns that we simply couldn't get an answer on. Those are the two key reasons: lack of staff and other priorities.
Thanks.
Member McDougal?
Yes, I had a similar question as Barbara did, and perhaps at our next meeting, when you give a report on the history, we can understand in a bit more depth what suggestions you might have for how local foundations can be strengthened. Because it's a lost opportunity to have 5 years to come up with $100 million that will or $50 million that will be matched by $50 million to get to 100. And with the capacity of our system, it seems to me to be a highly achievable goal over a 5-year period. And what insights do you have about where the weaknesses manifested themselves? I know you just said about staff and so forth, but what can be done to strengthen the overall infrastructure of our, foundations through the system, and what suggestions you might have for proceeding in that way? That would seem to me the more we can develop the infrastructure and capacity, the more effective the state foundation will be, and the more the system will benefit from it. So perhaps in your report next time that can be part of the
Yes.
history and what's been learned over time.
Okay. And I will add, if I may, that a typical campaign of this size would have had a year lead-in time, both to do feasibility studies, work more closely with the colleges to find out what exactly their capacity was and could be. And usually a length of time would be more like 5 years. So what we dealt with was a 3-year campaign
3-year.
with
Yeah.
no running start. And so I will say, while we would all love to be up here saying we reached 100 million, given that alone, to have gotten to 68 million is really something, given that sort of structure. But I hear what you're saying in terms of what additional capacity is needed for the system to take that on, which I know is a separate.
I think what was achieved was great.
Yeah, and I
we're
think you're
capable of
absolutely
more.
right.
Member Baum and then Member Malumed.
Just very, very quickly, the debate we're having also at the local level is the direction of fundraising activity and support. And I applaud your top goal there, too, because what we're realizing is scholarship support isn't actually the most critical thing needed at the district level, because you also have the BOG fee waivers and Pell Grants and other sources of financial aid. But what's really needed is to expand programs that provide more access, whether it's underwriting additional course sections or things like that, supporting faculty or other aspects. So I don't know if that's a debate you've been having as well. Scholarships are great, and we love being able to give those checks to students, but it actually doesn't necessarily strengthen the institution as much as some other revenue enhancement methods.
And I think I know we welcome ideas and ways that we can work together
I think
to get at those.
I think that goes to the discussion that Jan and I and Keith had, and the board members, that we could look at programmatic issues that, or policy issues that we could pursue. Member Malumed.
Member McDougall, you reminded me of the fact that there were discussions probably for a full year before the Osher grant was brought out, but they were secret. So Mr. Osher and the foundation were keeping things close to the vest, even though some people knew a little bit. So that made it a little bit harder to until it was officially announced. My question is, if I were to meet Mr. Osher walking down the street, would he be happy about this result? Would he be angry? I'm just kind of, because he was there in the beginning to get us going, so I'm wondering how he's feeling at the end.
Right. We've spoken, of course, several times to Mary Bitterman, the president of the Osher Foundation, who has shared with us that while there is disappointment, there is a sense of satisfaction then that 68 million is out there at work for the students. Yes, there would be no question that there's disappointment, but not anger. I believe that his heart really is about the students, and that's my understanding of where he's at with this. And we do share, by the way, we get hundreds and hundreds of student letters constantly thanking Mr. Osher, sharing their happiness for being a recipient. So we do share those with him, and we will continue to steward that relationship very closely.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. And then just briefly, I know, again, we really do try to keep these presentations brief, but there is a lot to share. But so I will keep this very broad and very much an overview, that we are working on a number of things now related to ways that we can work together, both with the Board of Governors, with the Chancellor's Office, in a number of areas. One is workforce development, and we've had the good fortune and pleasure to talk with Vaughn about that and how we can work closer together on matching funders, of course, in the corporate sector, with what might be of usefulness both to the Chancellor's Office as you work with the different colleges, but to really support those centers of excellence that already exist, and matching that up. So we hope to be a real player in that area and really work closely to see some successes in the workforce development area. I want to jump to the veterans subject, and we know that that is a subject that is very near and dear to many of you here, and thanks to Henry Ramos and his connection with J.P. Morgan, we are working very closely with J.P. Morgan on a significant grant that Member Baca has also been involved in. I owe you an email, as I do Linda Michalowski, on an update with this. So forgive a general update, but I will be back in touch with you individually on this. They asked if we would separate a proposal for two different things. One being the Veterans Summit that is scheduled. I believe, I don't know if I can share a date or if that's already been shared, December 2nd. So there is an amount that's being requested to have them sponsor the event fully. And then Henry, Member Ramos and I will be submitting a larger grant toward the end of this month that will encompass a greater veterans workforce development proposal to expand services in that area. Credit to Member Baca and to Member Ramos and I believe other members, of course, of Linda Michalowski's team that worked to develop a very strong proposal that we will be then submitting at the end of this month. There may be some specific questions on this particular effort, so if I'll stop for a minute and address any of those.
I would like to call Member Baca. I just want to reiterate that I encourage you and Vice Chancellor Michalowski, to make sure that the board is adequately represented in the development of this proposal, and we do that through our member Baca.
Okay.
So I just want to ensure that that coordination is there, because that's our way of
Yes.
best keeping up to date. Member Baca.
Well, first of all, I thank you very much for your work on this, and Vice Chancellor Michalowski on preparing some of the work that you've been feeding off of. I have a question with regard to the funder, J.P. Morgan Chase. Has there been some specific interest on their part that they've communicated to you and that needs to be addressed, along with maybe just some ideas that we have within the Chancellor's office about what might be feasible or a priority?
Yes, they have expressed that veterans are a top priority, and especially in the area of workforce development, how to bring and provide, I should say, support services to the veterans to really give them some additional focus and to help get them into the workforce and get them jobs, whether that's credential programs, whether that are technical training, degrees. They're not as specific about that kind of desire, but what they want to see are veterans in the workforce. But they're also interested in
that's what we do. We prepare
exactly. But they're also
folks
interested
for
in
the
workforce.
But I was wondering if there was some specific language that had been communicated to you with regard to how that's done.
No.
No?
No. They're looking to us to tell them how we feel it should be done. We meaning all of us.
Vice Chancellor?
Yeah, if I can interject, I want to thank Member Baca because he provided the initial impetus and framework for some work to serve veterans that has now become the basis for the proposal that we're further developing for this J.P. Morgan grant. So Member Baca and I suspect perhaps some input from former member McDonald may have been part of that, but we worked with it to flesh that out and are now working with the foundation to implement it. I also wanted to acknowledge that for the summit itself, we have been working on that jointly with the Faculty Association for California Community Colleges from the beginning. So Jonathan is here, and I wanted to make sure that knew that his staff is very actively engaged in planning that event as well.
Member Baca.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize, I prepared some initial ideas and thoughts, and Vice Chancellor Michalowski and her staff put together the proposal that the Foundation has been working off of. And of course, the concern always with someone who is providing grants is that we meet their interest and do the best we can to achieve the goals that they have in mind. But this is very much a part of that alignment that you were referring to. and that is very necessary, because I think that from the perspective of the whoever is providing the funds, what they want is success, and they might not necessarily want to dictate the planning. So I think that alignment is very essential, particularly here, to try to determine what is the best use of those funds, and they're very generous, the figure that I've received. But, you know, there has to be a focused effort so that that money can be maximized.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, let me again thank you all for coming up here, and again say I am really looking forward to an improved relationship, and one that will be very, very productive, and I think you all are off to a great start. Thanks so much.
Great, thanks.
We're going to adjourn for lunch. We will reconvene at 2 p.m.